it's Kim and I'm back today with a new video, and I'm going to be talking all about my 2023 health and fitness journal. So now that we're nearing the end, or we're closing out the first quarter of 2023, I do want to bring back some of my planners that I introduced in my original planner lineup video, which I will definitely have linked up in the cards and down below for you. But I wanted to come back and kind of flip through some of those to explain how they're working for me, if they are, if they aren't, and really kind of just talk through all that process. And this is one of the ones that I wasn't sure if I'd be bringing back to kind of flip through later on in the year, but because I got a lot of great feedback on my original video regarding this Hobonichi Weeks that I'm using as my health and fitness journal for 2023, I figured why not bring it back, because spoiler alert, it is working extremely well for me. So I definitely feel like maybe some others can get a little bit of help, a little bit of assistance, some tips on the best way to use this in your system. So starting right out, I have the 2023 Hobonichi Weeks, and this is the milk tea edition, and it has that like polyurethane type of cover that does not stay open on its own. And I think I mentioned in that previous video that I've been using this ollie clip to kind of help it stay open in a sense, but it doesn't necessarily annoy me so much. This is not one of the kinds of planners that I like to have just wide open on my desk, you know, throughout my workday. This is something that I'll jump in and I'll update a few times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, at the most probably, and at the least once a week. But I'm definitely always in here at least once a week. And the cover that I have this in is a Vanderspec Codex, and this is just the regular Codex, not the Mega. This is also just a regular Hobonichi Weeks, not the Mega. And this is the JL black leather, the Janet leather black on the outside and Janet leather brown on the inside. I did purchase this off of the buy sell trade group on Facebook, so I'm not sure of any specific specs on it, but I believe it's just your standard one right from the website. And then this is the regular layout for the cover with an included pin loop. All right, so let's get into my health and fitness planner. So when I do jump into here, I will update the first area. And this is just a little piece of blotting paper that I keep on hand. So this is my yearly overview, and this is the one that I had set up so that I could track the types of workouts I'm doing throughout the year. And I do still find this extremely helpful because I like to have an overview and see what was going on, what was happening, and all of that. In these blank areas, I kind of know what was what was going on and what was happening, especially in regards to my health, or just where my mental state might have been for that month or for those weeks. And then up at the top, I decided to do a goal. So I set a goal for each month. My first goal for January was 20 days of movement. I just wanted to get back into the habit of working out regularly. It's usually a daily or like at least 5 out of 7 days a week habit for me to work out. But after the holidays, of course, that fell off a little bit. So I kind of wanted to just jumpstart and get myself back in the habit of focusing on making sure I did some kind of movement. So my goal for January was 20 days out of the month, which I believe I did meet. Just looking at this, I'm sure I met it. So all of the black dots are where I met my goal. And then for February, because I was starting to do a lot more strength training, I wanted to make sure that I was getting at least 120 grams of protein each day. February, I honestly don't even know if I hit this goal at all in the month of February, and clearly I wasn't really tracking. I don't like to track my food. It's just not something I'm into, you know. I don't find it fun. I'm not on a diet, you know. So I don't think to like go into my phone and use one of those apps to track what I'm eating. So therefore, it wasn't tallying the amount of protein I was having per day. But I'm pretty sure that I was not hitting that 120 grams of protein each day. I had a few health issues going on in the month of February, so that's why I know I didn't hit that. And my diet was entirely out of whack. I likely was not eating enough food. I was just a bit of a mess in February. So what I decided to do, instead of lamenting and feeling terrible about not hitting that goal, I decided to transfer that goal to March, but to make some adjustments. So instead of saying that I would meet that 120 grams of protein goal, I dropped it down to 100 grams of protein, because when I was paying attention, a few times out of February to see what I was eating, 120, I was so far off. I was around more like 80. So I just felt like being able to, and that's after like eating 3 times a day. So being able to eat 3 times a day and then add an additional, 40 grams of protein, it was impossible. It just wasn't going to work for me at the time. I needed to implement some more strategies or some more high protein meals and foods into my diet, and February just wasn't going to happen. So for March, I decided to drop that down to 100 grams of protein and kind of, implement some strategies for increasing my protein intake, and I have been able to do that. We are now in the second to last week of March, so I've been doing really well, and I do think I'm going to hit 20 days out of the entire month of March. So that is my goal. So far I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm at 12, and I've got about nearly 2 full weeks left in the month. So I'm pretty much on track. Over those 2 weeks, I'm sure I'll get at least 8 days. Also, another thing that I was going to use this tracker for was to track my weight. I don't weigh myself, so I don't know why I thought that might have been a good idea. I don't know. I mean, I do weigh myself sometimes. For instance, I weigh myself right after the holidays, which is probably not advisable if you are a person that is affected by the number that you see on the scale. So I did weigh myself then. I kind of wanted to see what was going on. Maybe there was some water retention or just eating a bunch of holiday food, which is exactly what I was doing. So I kind of wanted to use that as a baseline to see where I was starting. And the point of me tracking my weight is to see if things are moving. So, I want to see if I'm higher, sitting at a higher weight than I'm comfortable with. I want to see if it's, moving lower as I'm doing whatever I'm doing. Like I said, again, I don't diet necessarily in terms of my food, but I just want to make sure that the amount of food I'm eating is enough to sustain my activity and to build some muscle. That is always my goal. So I just want to use the weight to kind of make sure things are moving in the right direction. And throughout January, things were moving in the right direction. I'm not sure if I even weighed myself in February. I think I might have weighed myself one time in March. I would need to go back to my app to kind of track and see. But things are moving in the right direction. Also, I am currently training for a half marathon. This is not the time to be trying to lose weight. So even if I wanted to, track my weight to see if I was losing fat or anything like that, I'm not doing it at this moment, so there would be no point. So I may come back and start tracking that again, depending on how my goals will change. So the next section are my monthlies, and in that previous video I explained how I started using this in October of 2022, and I showed how I tipped in pages from a 2022 Hobonichi weeks and put them into here. So November was the first monthly that I really started using, because clearly I didn't fill in anything on the October one. So this was a little bit, this was when I started my half marathon training. No, it was not. This was when I started trying to just run more often before my official half marathon training plan went into effect. So I was tracking according to a plan that I was following, what I should have done on different days. So this is an overview of what I should have done, not necessarily what exactly I did. But as the months went on and I did begin my training, so that started mid-February, I started to use the monthlies to actually track what I really did do. So November, December, and January were just that plan that I was following, and I wanted to write down the runs that I was supposed to be doing. I didn't do all of these. I didn't do all of the mileage that was prescribed. I was perfectly fine with that. And February, I started my actual half marathon training. And what February turned out to be, or going forward from this point, I wrote down the things that I actually did. So the runs that I actually did. So that's what you can see here and here. And we are currently, like I said, in the second to last week of March. And I don't know if you can see that clearly, but I am in a recovery week. So it doesn't mean I'm not running. I'm just not running as much. I'm not running like 25 miles per week at the moment. So I'm taking a bit of time off, doing a lot more mobility and stretching and those types of workouts to aid in recovery. So that's where I am. So the monthlies I do like now for the purpose of seeing what exactly I did. Now, it's not necessarily redundant. I've explained this previously. I don't tend to double plan or like, you know, write the same things in different places in my planners. I'm not a fan of just rewriting things multiple times. So, excuse me. This is what I did do for the specific days. And then as we move into the weeklies, oh, and I have these set up because I do have my long run. So Saturday is my long run day, and I like to see an overview of what mileage I need to hit for the long run for that week. So those are the other things that I do have written in here until it's time for my race in May. So that's what I'm using the monthlies for at the moment. And then the weeklies are where I'm planning out what my workouts are going to be. And the weeklies I really have been loving. So back in October, I was still planning it out, but I wasn't sure exactly what layouts I was going to be using or what would be most functional for me. And I should say that this has turned out to be a very functional planner for me. It's not very pretty, like, you know, there's no stickers or anything going on, but it's highly functional because as the weeks have gone on, I've started to track my miles for each run that I'm doing. Before the week begins, I'll plan out which workouts I'll be doing for that week. And then over here, and this is what I started when I wanted to try and focus on hitting protein grams, or I was really back in November trying to see what exactly I was eating because I wasn't sure, you know, how much carbs or how much protein or fat I was eating. So that's when I started to track that, or so I made this section for tracking that. So clearly I wasn't always successful in doing it because, like I said, I'm not really a tracker in that sense, but I did set up the right side to have my focus for the week. Here I had a target, so I was using this as kind of like a habit tracker to see what body parts I was hitting when I was doing strength training, and then a reflection section, and then a total section. Reflection is just how I felt about the week, things that went on, things that I could improve on, yada yada yada. And then the totals are my mileage run and my time run. So time on my feet, which is something I was trying to build up at this time before starting my actual half marathon training. So as of about November, my weekly layout has pretty much stayed the same. It is something that I find extremely useful. I love it, and I see no reason to change. There are a few weeks, especially I believe in February, where I just kind of fell off and we weren't doing a whole lot. We, as in me, I wasn't doing a whole lot of workouts, or at least not the ones that I had planned at the beginning of the week, because things just fell off. So there are probably a couple of weeks that aren't too full. I did still try to do a reflection. There are weeks where there are no macros written down. We already know why. So, you know, some weeks are good. I actually did pretty good with the macros on this week. And then I tried to change up my sleep tracker over here, because I have noticed, of course, that sleep definitely affects my progress and how I'm training and how I'm feeling. Sleep also affects whether or not I might get migraines, which is something I'll show you in my tracker section. So I do like to track how much sleep I'm getting and see it in relation to the workouts that I planned and how the week turns out. So I tried to turn it and make it a vertical sleep tracker, which I was not too much of a fan of. So this is one of those down weeks in February where not a lot happened. And then I went back to the horizontal sleep tracker, but also you can see here, it didn't happen. But I did stick with my sleep tracker for the most part. So over the past few weeks, I have been very diligent about filling in all of the information and making sure I am doing the workouts that I have planned and making sure I total all of these out for each week, just so that I can have a visual of what's going on with my training and how I'm feeling. So I do put those types of feelings in here as well. So this was not a good week for sleep for me, and I made a few notations over here on the left side about how tired I actually was, but I still was able to do all of the runs for the week. And then this one is the current week. So these are all of the runs that I have for this recovery week that I have going on. It is Tuesday actually, so I can go in here and update what my sleep was for last night. I went to sleep, I swear I went to sleep at like 9. I was so tired. But I woke up I think around 4 and then didn't go back to sleep for a little while. So that little bit of interrupted sleep was not fun. I will also note, if you care, that I'm only using black ink in here, and for the past few months this TWSBI in extra fine has been the one that lives in this planner, and it is inked with Deatramentis document ink, document black, so I can highlight over it. It is waterproof or water fast, water resistant, I'm not sure of the terminology, but I can highlight over it. It does smudge a little bit, and I just think it's because that TWSBI nib puts down a lot of ink. So I will pull out my blotting paper every now and then if I want to hurry up and turn the page. So I typically don't set up the weeks until I get there, but this format and this layout has worked amazingly well for me and is what I foresee using at least until I'm done with this half marathon training in May. And then after that, I do want to continue using this. So at the beginning of 2023, I just wasn't entirely certain that I would continue using this health and fitness tracker throughout the year, like if I wasn't training for a race or something, but I honestly think that I will. I quite like it. I like having a place to plan out my health goals, to focus on all of those things that might be going on within my body. You know, having a place to see all of that laid out together, because I'm a person who doesn't like to have I don't like to have 10 different topics in one planner. I feel like it gets just too clouded, too muddled in my brain or something. So I like to have a designated place just for this health and fitness type of information. I do already know that after my race in May, I will be switching over to doing a lot more strength training, and I do want to do some programs that are focused on progressive overload to build back a lot of the muscle that I did lose by not doing a ton of strength while I've been running a lot. So I absolutely know I'll be using it for that purpose. So my sections in the back, I have my note sections, and then this is just like a page for sticky notes. The first section is for the training plans, and these are the ones that I had printed out and glued into here on some Tomoe River paper. And I kind of abandoned this training plan that I had set out to use and sort of adjusted and kind of made up my own. Though looking back at this, I actually, for next week when I'm out of recovery, I need to start doing more of these speed workouts. But I did use like a pencil to kind of track out things that I want to do going forward. So even when I'm done with my running, I will use this section to put in some training programs for strength, like I mentioned, or anything else that I might have, that I might want to focus on. Maybe I want to focus on mobility at some point and do a lot more Pilates and yoga. I don't know, we'll see. And then the next section is for my trackers. So here is where I have a migraine tracker and a cycle tracker, and I've been trying to see how my lack of sleep and all those other things that I mentioned do affect migraines. Thankfully, as you can see, I haven't had a migraine since January, which is amazing. Normally I get at least once a month, one migraine a month, so knock on wood that won't happen again. But I've been making sure I've been eating a lot more food, I've been staying a lot more hydrated, trying to prioritize sleep. So I do feel that has been helpful, at least with balancing hormones over the past few months. Speaking of hormones, my cycle has kind of been out of whack a little bit, but we're getting that back on track. We're getting it back on track. So another thing that I have in my tracker section are strength trackers, and I realized that I need to update January and February. However, I haven't been really focusing on strength training. I haven't been focusing on strength training over the past few months. But I do still have data that I can put in here for January and February for these major lifts that I have put in here. So I will update this definitely, but I don't foresee this being extremely useful in tracking progress until, like I said, I'm done with my running and I'm focused more on strength training. Oh, and then this is my measurements. So clearly I did not do measurements for March, so I need to come in and do this. So I did January and February, and this is so I can see trends. Like I said, I don't weigh myself, but I do like to assess how my clothes are fitting. That is very important for me. So I do like to assess trends in certain areas. I have like neck, chest, bust, ribs, waist, lower waist, hips, thighs, calves, and biceps. So I want to see if I'm doing a lot more curls, I'm doing a lot more bicep curls. Is that affecting how my biceps are growing? Obviously that would be a goal. I would want them to grow. So that is what I'm doing here. Normally I like to do my measurements on the 1st of each month. So I completely skipped March. I don't know how that happened. And like I said, we are in like the second to last week of March. Is there even a point in me filling in March measurements? Because in like a week and a half, I'll have to do April. I don't know. We'll see. Because I feel like it won't be extremely representative of where I started in March. Like between the first, day of February to the first day of March. But we shall see. Okay, and then the next section I have is my notes section. And in here, I just have a few things scribbled out and written out. These first few pages, this first page, I just have some strength training programs that I was writing out for myself. And I was tracking week to week or day to day what weights I was lifting, or what, what do you call it? Amounts of the weights, the dumbbells, what dumbbells I was doing for each move. So that's pretty much how I've been using this tracker, or this health and fitness journal that I have in this Hobonichi Weeks for 2023. I find it so helpful. It's definitely extremely functional. This for me is the epitome, the definition of functional planning. It is extremely functional for me, and I like seeing everything laid out month to month, week to week, day to day. And I like having a place where I can plan out all of those things before I get started. Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Isn't that one of the good old sayings? So I do like to, these are health goals and they're very important to me. So I want to make sure I'm planning for them appropriately. I want to make sure I'm planning well to make sure I'm as successful as I can be. So that is the overview for my 2023 health and fitness planner. I do think I'll come back in a few months, especially after my running training is over, and update you on how I'll be using this for other things going forward. It might be a lot less fitness stuff and more health stuff. I don't know how this is going to evolve over the year, but I'm really excited and really glad that I set it up because I find it so super useful, a lot more useful than I actually thought it would be going into this. So I hope that this video was helpful for you. And if you have any questions on anything I've showed, anything I've talked about, feel free to ask me in the comments down below. Again, I'll have the original setup video that I have for this planner. I'll have that link down below for you as well. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.